Organic chemistry. So this is part 2. In fact, it starts with the bottom paragraph of the first side and then shifts towards the back. So these things are already filled in for you. So your job is to underline things like where it says carbon compounds and the 4 bonds. And that I talked about at the end of the previous video. So now you turn the page and we have some things to fill in, and I've muted because the noise is moderately distracting. So it turns out that not all compounds that contain carbon are organic. The definition of an organic compound is it contains both carbon and hydrogen. So carbon dioxide, for example, will not be organic. Now, they can contain other elements as well, but they at a minimum have to have carbon and hydrogen, and they will not contain metals. Now, hydrocarbons gets even more precise. If you see a hydrocarbon, that means all you have present are carbon and hydrogen and no other elements. The carbon will have 4 bonds around each atom, normally, and hydrogen 1. And if we run into oxygen in an organic compound, not a hydrocarbon, it will have 2 bonds. Now, organic chemistry we keep relatively simple in Science 10. We go into it a lot more detail in Chem 11. Here you see you only have to know about 3 different categories of organic compounds. Next year, you're looking at in excess of 10 or so. And next year, you have to learn how to identify them and name them. This year, all you have to do is be able to tell the difference between alkane, alcohol, and ether. And that'll be coming up on another sheet. So, in biology, probably in grade 9, used to be in grade 10, you learned about cycles. It's a crazy place to teach about cycles because generally you don't know a lot about chemistry in grade 9. And it helps to know about chemistry if you're going to understand how carbon and oxygen and phosphorus and nitrogen are cycled. Carbon dioxide is the main form of carbon in the atmosphere. And you should know from grade 8, there's something called photosynthesis, which is how plants make their food, called glucose or sugar. So carbohydrates, that refers to when you have carbon and water fused together, you end up with carbohydrates. And sugars are examples of carbohydrates. If you eat pasta because you're going to do a marathon run, it contains starch, which is a polysaccharide, but it's a carbohydrate. Proteins are structural. You should remember the ribosomes in your cells are protein factories. And there are things called fats that have important functions in the human body. From the carbon cycle, you should know that carbon is stored in the Earth's crust and is stored as what are called fossil fuels. In other words, it takes many, many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years to make these things, and they are non-renewable. And so we have things like oil and coal and whatnot. And you may have seen trainloads of coal being shipped through Hope on its way to the Delta port to be shipped to Asia. In gas processing plants and oil refineries, that's where you can make all kinds of different hydrocarbons. Lighter hydrocarbons will come off as gas, heavier ones come off as liquids, and heavier still will come off as solids. And that would be things like the waxes. And that's it.